boys and girls. Let's start today with a show of patriotism by singing along with It's a Grand Old Flag. Continue our show of patriotism by saying our pledges this morning. Go ahead and stand, salute, and pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the state flag. Salute and pledge. I salute the flag of the state of Oklahoma. Its symbols of peace unite all people. And I want to salute the students of our Primary 2 class who joined in the Build It theme Zoom lunch meeting. It was such a treat to see the things that you guys have made from Legos, to see Court's reading fort that he had made, Charlie's robotics project, Madeline's Tinker Toy creations, and so many others. All of them were really impressive and fun to see and hear about. I want to thank Ethan for sharing his flag booklet during the Zoom lunch. I can tell that Ethan had been working very hard to design and color those flags, to research and to record his research. That was exactly what I had in mind for a flag booklet. So the really nice example of that. And Ethan shared a little bit about the country of Japan, that sushi is a popular food in Japan. So maybe that would encourage you guys to try some sushi sometime soon. Also, when showing the flag booklet, Ethan mentioned there was no flag for the continent of Antarctica, and that's correct. There is no official flag for the continent of Antarctica. However, if you visited that continent, you might see some flags flying. Antarctica is known for a place that researchers and scientists will go for short periods of time to conduct research. And for example, if the United States sent a group of scientists over to conduct some research and they're staying in a research station, they might put the American flag out in front of their research station. So you might see the flag of America in Antarctica. But there's no official flag for that continent. The continent of Antarctica is so different, vastly different from the 6 other continents. There are no permanent residents on the continent of Antarctica, meaning there's not people who actually live there for long periods of time. It's just too cold. At any given time, around 4,000 people are the most people that you're going to see on that continent. And those are just researchers and scientists. A few people who might live there for a year or so, but for the most part, people are just in and out conducting research. As you saw in the video yesterday, Antarctica is more than 90% covered in ice. It's the coldest, windiest, driest place on Earth. But it was also referred to as the coldest, windiest, driest desert. I don't even think of the word desert when I look at Antarctica. I think of desert as a hot, dry, sandy place. But desert actually is determined by the amount of rainfall that a place gets. Antarctica does not get rainfall. They get snow, but they do not get measurable rainfall. So it's considered one of the largest deserts in the world. I want to share a few Antarctica vocabulary words with you. An ice cap is a covering of ice and snow that never melts. So you might see, I believe on top of Mount Everest, there is an ice cap. There's always a little bit of snow or a lot of snow at the top of Mount Everest. But in Antarctica, there's ice caps every place. We had blizzard as one of our weather words earlier this year when we did our weather unit, which is a heavy snowstorm with strong winds. Sometimes a blinding snowstorm, meaning it's a whiteout. All you can see is white. And I'm sure this happens quite often in Antarctica. This is something you would need to wear if you were going to spend any time on this continent. A parka is a thick, warm jacket with a hood. And in just a few minutes, I'm going to tell you about a journey taken for a specific person or a specific purpose. Expedition is what that is. And we're going to talk more about a special expedition in just a moment. Last fall, I attended a lecture over on the University of Tulsa campus. And the speaker was David Grann. He's a fairly famous author. He wrote a book about Oklahoma called Killer of the Flower Moon. And then he also wrote this book called The White Darkness. The White Darkness is a true account of an explorer who went to Antarctica with the intention of walking across Antarctica in 9 weeks. He attempted once in the year 2008, and 2 other men went on this journey with him, and they didn't quite make it. They had to turn around. It was just too difficult. They didn't have the provisions they needed, so they had to say, "Come and get us, we can't do it." And then 7 years later, in 2015, he decided to try it again. But this time, no one wanted to try this with him. So he went alone. And he made it for 71 days on foot, walking with just some things in a backpack in Antarctica, across Antarctica. But on day 71, he decided, I'm too ill, I'm too weak, I don't have provisions, I have to stop. I'm not gonna make it the rest of the way. And he called for a rescue. But when he was rescued, he was so weak he couldn't stand, and he had a severe infection, a tooth infection. And that infection spread through his body, and he ended up dying from that infection just a few days after his rescue. And this book, The White Darkness, like I said, is the account of his trip or his journey, his expedition across Antarctica. And the book's 142 pages long. And as I started reading it, it was really interesting, and I really wanted to know what was going to happen next. And I read all of it in one setting. I just sat down and read 142 pages of it because it was very well written. It had a lot of good adjectives in it, and it flowed from one thing to the other to just keep you wanting to go to the next page and know what was going to happen. So it's a sign of a talented, creative writer when the reader doesn't want to put the story down. Just like we talk about in your creative writing stories, using lots of words to describe what you're feeling or experiencing makes your story more interesting. I mentioned yesterday that I would like for you to use the words from your writing words booklet and make a little list of some words you want to use in a story. Get creative with your writing. We're almost at the end of the year. Make this week your best for writing creative stories. Remember, those beginning sentences set the tone for the story. That first sentence tells what the story is going to be about. And then your detail sentences, all the really interesting things where you're going to use lots of adjectives and adverbs. Instead of saying the dog barked, you would say the small black and white dog barked loudly. Use those adjectives, small, black, white, and that adverb loudly that tells how the dog barked. The other words, the adjectives, describe the dog. So think about as you're writing how you can make your sentences really interesting. And then that last sentence kind of wraps up the story, tells what you think about it, your opinion of what you wrote about. And remember our strategy: plan, do, review. You plan your work, you think about it. What are you going to write about? Maybe you want to write a story about virtual school and being in quarantine and what that's been like, because that's something really different and new for everyone. So plan your topic, what you're going to write about. Make a list of words from your writing words booklet that you're probably going to use in that story. Maybe even make a few notes to yourself. Plan, and then you're going to do the work, do the writing. And once you finish the writing, you're going to review it. Remember, plan, do, review. That review time is really important. Read it over carefully, looking for good sentence structure, capitals at the beginning, end marks at the end, interesting sentences that make sense, and then edit. Do what needs to be done to make your story just right, and then draw and color a good picture to go along with your story. Now let's add some words to your writing words booklet. Go ahead and take it out, and let's add the words continent and ocean. We have been exploring continents and oceans for the past few weeks. Continent and ocean. Bless you, videographer. Our videographer had to sneeze. So continent and ocean. And now I'm going to have our videographer zoom in on this big wave for just a second. And I have a few questions to ask about oceans. The top of an ocean wave is called dune, crest, or peak. Dune, crest, or peak. It's the crest, it's the top. The water level in the ocean goes up and down throughout the day. What do you call it when the water is at its highest level? High tide, low tide, or full tide? When it's at its highest level, it's high tide. What do you call an athlete who stands on a board and rides waves? A snorkeler, a surfer, or a sailor? That would be a surfer. And this is a true or false question. In some parts of the ocean, there are huge mountains deep under the surface of the water. That is true. There are huge mountains deep under the surface of the water. Fascinating fact, big crowds of people at sporting events sometimes do the wave. One after another, each person in a row stands up, raises their arms, and then sits back down. It looks like a human wave. Now let's add our word of the day. Yesterday we added the word gloomy. Today we're going to add the word prefer. You prefer something when you like it better than other things. To prefer shows an action. So what part of speech would that be? It would be a verb. Remember, a verb shows action. Annie prefers chocolate ice cream to vanilla. Which of the two in each pair do you prefer? Hamburgers or pizza? Do you like make-believe stories or stories about real people? I like stories about real people. I like factual stories. Cats or dogs? Crayons or markers? Playing outside or playing inside? Apples or bananas? Which do you prefer? So let's add the word P-R-E, fur, F-E-R. P-R-E-F-E-R. Before we do a few math problems, I wanted to point out again, the book I showed you, the name of it is The White Darkness. Take a look at the bottom of our world map. All of this white is Antarctica. So wouldn't you say that was a good title for this book about Antarctica? The White Darkness. We're going to have a little bit of fun with math today. On your paper or your whiteboard, make a big rectangle. And divide, and then do 2 vertical lines. Do 1 horizontal line. And then put these numbers in the squares. Okay. And now you're just going to put an X over the number if it's the correct answer to what I am asking. The number of months in a year. Put an X over what you think it is. You should be putting an X over the number 12. There are 12 months in a year. Okay, this one, you're probably going to need to use your whiteboard or your paper. The answer to 60 minus 25. 60 minus 25 equals your answer is 35. 35 is what you should put a mark over. And now add 17 plus 71. 17 plus 71 equals 88 is what you should put the X over. 94 minus 14. 94 minus 14. 80 is what you're going to X out. An odd number greater than 83 and less than 97. Greater than 83, less than 97. $93 is your answer. And the last one, how many nickels it takes to equal 2 quarters. A nickel's worth 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. 10 nickels is the same as 2 quarters. I have some more of these fun math cards, but we're going to save them for another time. And we're going to go ahead and close and say goodbye for now.